Story name: The Mirror's Grasp. Episode 1: The Inheritance of Shadows. Some legacies are better left forgotten. Anna Delaney stood at the edge of a sprawling, overgrown driveway, her heart pounding as she gazed at the mansion looming before her. It was hers now, an inheritance from a grandfather she barely knew. The letter that had summoned her to this forgotten corner of the world was still clutched in her hand. Its yellowed paper and elegant handwriting, an eerie reminder that this wasn't a dream. She hadn't expected the house to be so vast. The locals had been quick to warn her as soon as she arrived at the nearest town. A creaky old man at the general store had refused to meet her gaze when she mentioned the address. "You're the one who's going up there?" he had muttered. "I wouldn't. But it's yours now. The Delaney place holds dark memories. You should have let it rot." But curiosity, a necessity, drove her. Standing there with her suitcase and little else to her name, Anna knew this mansion was her only option. She had nothing left in the city. No job, no family. Only this decaying ancient house that felt like it was staring back at her with its broken windows and sagging roof. But it was hers. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, the gravel crunching beneath her shoes as she approached the entrance. The key was heavy in her hand, cold and slightly rusted, but it fit the lock perfectly. The door creaked open, groaning as if it hadn't been disturbed in years. The inside was worse than the exterior. The air was musty, thick with the scent of rot and old wood. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight that filtered weakly through the stained windows. The entry hall was grand, ornate wallpaper peeled in places, revealing dark, damp spots on the walls. A grand staircase stretched up to the second floor, its banister chipped and worn from years of neglect. Anna's footsteps echoed in the silence as she wandered through the first floor. Empty rooms greeted her, each filled with shadows that seemed to cling to the corners. Every now and then, the floor creaked and her breath hitched, wondering if she was truly alone in this house. She reached what seemed to be the study, a dark oak-paneled room lined with shelves full of old, dusty books. A massive desk sat in the center, and behind it, an ornate mirror hung on the wall, its surface covered in dust. Something about the mirror made her pause. Its frame was carved with strange symbols, intricate and swirling, nothing like the rest of the house's antique decor. As she approached, the floor groaned beneath her feet, and for the briefest moment, she thought she heard something, a faint whisper, barely audible, as if it was coming from deep within the walls. Her eyes flicked to the mirror again. The dust on its surface began to clear, seemingly of its own accord. A figure began to take shape in the reflection. A man, gaunt, with hollow eyes. Anna's breath caught in her throat. The figure wasn't behind her, but in the mirror itself. It blinked. Her grandfather. "Why did you come back?" The voice wasn't in her ears, but in her head, low and echoing. Her knees went weak, and she stumbled back from the mirror, her heart hammering against her ribs. The whisper faded. The mirror returned to normal, dusty, quiet. Anna's pulse raced, her mind scrambling for explanations. The house was playing tricks on her. The isolation, the musty air, the dark corners, they were all messing with her. She turned sharply, desperate to leave the study, when something stopped her in her tracks. A knock, slow, rhythmic. It came from beneath her feet, from somewhere deep within the house, the cellar. Wondering what's gonna happen next? Let me know what is your thought in comments and stay tuned for next episode.